What's good, everyone? This is Kyle with Best of Business, and today we're just going to dive a little bit into Disney. Now, Disney is huge and one of the most admirable companies in the world, in my opinion. And so this is something that I wanted to do for a while, kind of breaking down exactly why we as Americans and as consumers have fallen in love with this brand. Now, maybe you haven't. I have. My wife and I have annual passes to Disneyland. We live pretty close near LA. It got me thinking why that is, why we love Disney so much. What have they done tactically to get us to love them so much? And I believe that 5 principles that I'll distill in this video and walk you through can be learned from Disney and brought into other aspects of business and help your company out. So anyway, without any further ado, let's get into it. All right, so the first thing that they've done right is they've had a mission. They have a vision. Walt Disney himself, when he initially started Disneyland, set out to make a land where parents and kids can come and just have a good time, that they can make memories together. And that's something that resonated and continues to resonate with parents. I mean, anytime you can do anything for parents, children, they'll love you. And they're the ones with the pocketbook. So of course they're going to be successful when you execute cleanly on that mission. To borrow a term from Simon Sinek, they have a just cause that they're willing to further. And that's something that you can't underestimate in business. And so anyway, that's the first thing I think, is that they're so mission driven, they're so purpose oriented. They help parents with burdens that parents don't always like to, they don't want to be stuck entertaining their kids all the time. They know that Disney can do it better than them. And so by being able to hand off essentially the burden of having to entertain your child for a day, Disney is coming in huge for these parents, and by virtue of that becoming, gaining some degree of loyalty amongst their paying customers. The second one is that they don't mess around. They have uncompromising quality standards, which is something that has really helped them do well. It's not enough just to have a vision, a noble cause. I mean, that definitely helps. That helps you kind of get to stick with people. But I think having the ability to execute is something that Disney is famously good for, in my opinion. All the staff members are called cast members, and they're basically trained to call you friend when they're working with people. Everyone's a friend to them. And so there's different things that they execute so cleanly on. Building off that point, if you've been in Disney, you know that every day is their Super Bowl, and they treat every day like their Super Bowl. They have parades every weekend. They have fireworks every weekday. They also have light shows. There's a lot of characters out, always talking to people. I think Disney understands very well that not everybody can afford to go to Disney all the time, right? And not everybody can have this experience every day. And so they want to make each day that people are in their parks something that the people who are only there for that one day will remember fondly. It's kind of like how Kobe, I think at one point was said to have said, the reason that he plays hard every night, and I might be butchering this anecdote, but the reason he goes hard every night is because he knows there's somebody seeing him for the first time in the stands. It might be their only time to see him play live. And in a similar sense, Disney is constantly in execution mode. They understand that there's people who can't afford to come to Disney that many times. This is their one shot at seeing what Disney's all about. And so Disney throws down day after day, every single day, in one of the most cleanly executed corporate experience creation shows ever. And I think it's a pleasure to be, when you're in the parks, it's a pleasure to witness. It's a really interesting part about being at Disneyland. Third, what they do well at is have synergies across their business lines. If you look at Disney as a corporation, and it's a tribute to them, in my opinion, that it's even hard to do that for me. I think of Disney as this magical place, and it's interesting to also think of them as a business, and they are. But when you think of them like that, it's amazing what they also are able to do across their business lines. So they have their, the parks, Disneyland, Disney World, all the foreign Disney experiences. They also have Aulani in Hawaii, and they have a couple other places, right? And having those parks, that's, obviously a big part of their revenue stream. But another huge part is their streaming service, the direct-to-consumer Disney Plus platform that they launched at the end of 2019. Now, the Disney Plus platform is something that complements the parks. When kids and parents and even me, in my mid-20s, when I see something that I've seen in a movie or something in the parks, obviously that's cool. When you go and see the Millennium Falcon for the first time in Galaxy's Edge and Star Wars Land, it's really interesting and it's really cool because you've seen it in other contexts. And so their streaming service complements their parks. And their parks, in turn, complement their streaming service. Both of those things serve to complement their merchandise sales. And merchandise sales is a big part of Disney's revenue streams. If you understand how many, it's like $25 for those Mickey ears and $100 for those little backpacks everyone has. And it's amazing what they're able to do for merchandise. They have this ecosystem of service lines, kind of like how Elon Musk has been able to do with Tesla charging stations also kind of connecting to Solar City, solar farms and stuff like that. And it's just really amazing to see how Disney is able to take disparate aspects of the business and have them all kind of complement each other in kind of this upward virtuous circle. And so that's another thing that I would call out with Disney. They are very, very good. And that's the third thing. They're very, very good at creating synergies across their business lines. And I would even say that they're good at capitalizing on synergies that exist naturally. Like, for example, in the example of the Florida resort and the Aulani resort, people are already going to be smiling when they're in Hawaii, right? And so when it was so smart of them to do this Aulani resort or do a cruise line, because when you're in the Bahamas or in Hawaii, you're going to be smiling and happy and having a great time anyway. And so by positioning a park and a Disney experience, Disney is able to draft off of those, positive tailwinds. They're able to kind of just have the positive. They don't have to work as hard to make people smile because they're already going to be smiling there. And so that's something that Disney's also done pretty well, in my opinion. All right, and the fourth thing that they do really, really well is change the question. So the question is not, do we go to Disneyland? Do we take our kids to an amusement park this year? It's, when do we go? How many times in some cases do we go? And also which one, right? Are they going to Disneyland or are they going to Florida? Or, the foreign ones, or Aulani, whatever. They do a really good job changing this question. By having, Disney has it's kind of created its own culture and this own cult of just parents who love their kids, who want to do everything for them. It's very flattering as a parent to be associated with the brand of Disney. You feel like a good parent when you're taking your kid there. And so by having so Disney's been able to do that. They've been able to create that environment by doing the things that I've already outlined. And then they've been able to effectively change the question of, are we going to Disney, to when are we going to Disney? Another one they also changed, by the way, and this is something that I've also seen in the parks. This is for mainly their revenue stream, their merchandise revenue stream. They changed the question when you're in the park. Instead of do I get a backpack or do I get Mickey ears? They changed the question from that to, which one do I get? I was in the park with some relatives just this last week, and it was amazing to me. I started counting how many backpacks I saw. They have these little kind of small, you probably know what I'm talking about if you've been to Disney recently, and if you haven't, you'll soon see that everyone has these little Loungefly backpacks. And I counted how many different ones they have. Just as an exercise, in the space of about 24 hours, give or take, I saw about 179 different types. And let that sink in, 179. So there's backpacks for Buzz Lightyear, there's backpacks for Boba Fett and Darth Vader, there's backpacks for Spider-Man, they have the backpack is one giant face of Spider-Man or something like that. They've been able to create so many different varieties of their merchandise, and the hats or the Mickey ears are the same way. There's Chinese New Year ones. We went in February, right? And so there's Chinese New Year ones going on. There's flowers. There's the Pixar balls. There's the standard classy, just Minnie and Mickey, and it's amazing. And what it does is, as a consumer, you start going, while initially you might be objecting to the idea of buying something that's $25 just for Mickey ears that you're never going to wear again, you might not be okay with that, and that's fine. And Disney understands that. But I think what they do is they change the question to, from am I going to spend $25 to, all right, forget the $25, which one am I going to get? Because they have so many different varieties that even though you might be no, I'll never get those, it's not really me. Well, eventually you'll see one that is you, because they have so many ones. If you might be I don't really want that flowery one, but then you see this Star Wars one, you're that's more me. I think I'll actually go for it. And you're willing to shell out the bucks. And what's also interesting is that everyone's wearing them too, so there's a little bit of pressure, I guess, or a little bit of network effect taking place. But I think that's fascinating. Psychologically, as a consumer, they kind of wear on you. They wear you down. Initially, you'll be like, no way, I'm not buying one. And then eventually you start seeing them, and you're like, I don't like those, but I kind of like this one. And then you start seeing it, and you're like, oh, $25. I kind of want to be in the in-group. I want to have this, and this is the best one that represents my personality, so why not? Oh, of course I'll spend $25. This is a great one. Speaking of like the backpacks and the Mickey ears. So anyway, Disney is really, really good at changing the question from whether we're going to parks, whether we're going on a vacation, to when are we going on a vacation. And they're really good once you're in the parks. Instead of saying, are we going to buy these things? It's, which one are we going to buy? All right. And last but not least, Disney is always changing their experience. They're always evolving it so that you as a guest and as a consumer always have something to look forward to, and always have something that you can experience that's new. So my wife and I mentioned earlier in the video, we have annual passes. We've gone about 15 times since in the last like 6 months. It's a lot. We go a lot, and we're getting our money's worth for sure. But what we like doing, the reason we like doing it so much is because it's always different. Like for Halloween, they had amazing Halloween decorations. For Christmas, they made it snow, and they had this amazing fireworks show and parades and special desserts and stuff like that. And you know where to find all of them on the app. And then for Chinese New Year, they did something else like that. They had Chinese New Year stuff going on in February. They have the Super Bowl, because ESPN's also owned by Disney. So they have the Super Bowl. LA Rams were playing off. It's 2022, so they were having the broadcast booth being set up in Disney. So that's new. There's all kinds of things that they do to always evolve and switch the experience up so that you can keep coming back for more. And that's something that I think is, you can't overstate that in terms of Disney's ability to get more money out of you, make you come back time and time again. And I think that that's a fascinating psychological thing they do as well. And I mean, I love it. I'm I guess you could say a victim of it, but I think it's great. And anyway, so that's the fifth one. All right, guys. So in summary, Disney's great. I think that we can learn a lot from Disney. I, as a consumer, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this, have had great experiences associated with the brand. They've done a really good job becoming something as a brand. So the 5 things that they've done, if we can distill these 5 things and take them and apply them to the rest of business, whatever, if you have a company, apply them to your own company. I think everybody can learn these 5 things I've highlighted from Disney. And specifically, it's have a vision. Have a just cause to further that people can get behind. The second is execute. Execute like your life depends on it, because some people are only going to get to experience your brand this one time. So execute on it so you're always on your game. Third is have synergies. Build synergies across your different revenue streams. Fourth, change the questions. Change the objections. Make it less of a matter of if but when. Finally, fifth, just make sure that you're always changing and you're always evolving and innovating, because it makes your brand more interesting. It makes people want to come back. It makes people want to be a customer of yours. And it builds brand loyalty. The more consistent brand interactions somebody has, they're going to be more of a habitual consumer of your product. All right, everybody, that's it for this episode of Best of Business. Please let me know which other companies you'd like me to do next. Drop that in the comments. Also, let me know if there's anything that you'd either add to this list or if you think that I'm off the mark about. We'd love to hear those comments as well. Give this video a like if it's something you found value in. Can't wait until next time. See you then.